working through all this finances and on SFAP. So thank you.
All right.
Good luck.
Thank you. As Spencer said, my name is Elizabeth Jones, and I'm from the library. So I'm the assistant to the dean. So kind of what there is right now. So today I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about the libraries. I'm going to throw a lot at you quickly. So if you have any questions in the meantime as I'm going through things, please feel free to stop and ask questions. The library serves students by providing academic research services such as reference instructions, and one-on-one consultations. We provide a variety of spaces that support individual study to group study. We provide scholarly resources, and we have approximately 868,000 physical volumes and books, over 91,000 e-journals, approximately 150,000 e-books. We have a large media collection. We continuously add content to our institutional repository. The bulk of our budget, our base budget, comes from the state appropriations and the student library fee, which go to cover the ongoing subscriptions, which are mainly electronic resources. We keep this allocation this way because we're able to reach the greatest audience remotely and quickly. So that means that the budget, which last year was 98% of the materials budget, covers only ongoing subscriptions, leaving minimal funds for books. The other 2% is supplemental. Those funds come from endowments, grants, fines and fees, and restricted funding. Unfortunately, this can impact the student's success because there are limitations that come from having most of our collections as journals. There's information that can only be found in books. The summarization of a lot of research or the columnization of research in one source versus the multiple journals to search for. Books provide techniques and tools and explain how to apply that research in a useful manner. But they better provide a hypothetical example or case studies. In some disciplines, the main avenue of publication is only through books, so that context is only going to be found in books. And books can also provide better access. So the large, outside of the large publishers, the small publishers do not provide a good mechanism for universities to access that material. So the only way to find that information is from the print. And then not only that, they can provide a cost savings. So the electronic resource, if electronic resource isn't utilized well, the cost per download is high, and it was just too high to continue to justify that subscription. So all of these reasons being vital to why we need to increase spending on our physical collections in order to avoid impacting students' ability to access thorough and credible resources. Excuse me. Currently, the libraries receive $3.32 per credit, or $39.84 per full-time student per semester. That is 8.4% of the total NDSU fees. We take that money and we supply 100% of that towards the purchase of research materials. For the last student library fee increase, this allowed us to add multiple titles including JSTERS, Art and Sciences 7, the Education Source and Journal Citations and Reports, LexisNexis, SciTech Collection, the 20th Century North America Drama, an upgrade to our Web of Science package, some nature titles, and more. So why an increase now? It's because the libraries need additional funds to develop and sustain a physical research collection that supports student scholarship and success. And also because current collections are outdated. Over the last 3 fiscal years, we were able to replace or add less than 1% of our total books. The 2,531 books that we did add in the last 3 years account for 0.93% of our current holdings. We've purchased less and less books each decade since the 1970s, and in this decade we've purchased less to date than we did in the 1940s. And we're drastically behind spending from last decade. We've only purchased 19% of the books that we did this decade than we did the last decade. But in order to help turn this around, we are asking for 53 cents per credit, or $6.33 36 cents per full-time student per semester for our primary request, or as low as 28 cents per credit for our secondary request. This would net anywhere from $162,000 to $85,600 in annual revenue, which receiving the primary request would more than triple our current book budget for this year. Some of the current obstacles that we're up against is we have gaps that we cannot fill with our current budget. Some of the gaps can be explained though. NDSU was not always a research-intensive university that it is now, but now that it is, the libraries do not have the resources needed to keep or get our collections up to date for the reaccreditation of undergraduate and graduate programs. For example, we are only spending $405 on each subject this year, and for some disciplines that only means 1 or 2 books per purchased a year, which is clearly not enough. As I mentioned, we have very few avenues to utilize when creating a book budget, especially since we are faced with rising costs of ongoing subscriptions each year, which eliminate the ability of transferring funds from our base budget to our book budget. To put things in perspective, 1% of our inflation equals $34,000. That is over 70% of our current book budget. With that said, this is why the libraries need additional funds to develop and sustain a research collection that supports student scholarship and success. Libraries cannot increase the book budget without cutting other resources. In addition, the average cost of a book is going up. Last year we spent around $107 per book, whereas in fiscal year 14 we spent $82. That is an increase of 31% over the last 2 years. However, due to support from the administration and through fiscal management such as negotiating lower inflation rates, we've been able to hold on to electronic resources. However, that does nothing for the library's ability to develop physical collections like books. And then on top of that, we've been experiencing budget cuts. We're all in a holding pattern and we don't know how this budget is going to roll out. If there is anything left over, we won't know that until the end of the fiscal year. And if we happen to become the recipients of that year-end funding, there is insufficient time to purchase books due to the length of time it takes to process and receive physical items, meaning we are limited to purchasing electronic back files, which also fill gaps, but obviously not the gaps we're talking about. So the student library fee is essential to the libraries because it is a large portion of our base budget, which again is a combination of that and the state appropriations. Historically, we incur 5.64% inflation on our ongoing subscriptions, which this year would mean $192,000. Each year, we continue to assess the collection to see if there are any resources that no longer meet our curriculum needs or are now available in a database. And then whatever we can't cover with cancellation is then paid for by the provost. Thus, we do not have any additional funds to contribute from our base budget to our book budget. Assessing the collection is a large undertaking, and I want to give you one example of what we get from that assessment. From the resources we added from the last student library fee increase in the fall of 2013, in 2015, those resources alone received 15% of the full text article request. What that means is those resources had over 119,000 requests out of the tracked and counted 822 article downloads, 100,000 article downloads. So this is just one way that we make sure that your funds are being spent on resources that benefit you. We work daily on adding and compiling the best resources to meet student needs, and we see a need to fill the gaps in our physical collection. Some of our other sources of revenue are miscellaneous fines and fees, endowment interest, cost transfers, and miscellaneous sales. Even though those are more sources than we have in our base budget, they still don't amount to much, and they are limited because the majority of the dependable book budget comes from endowment interest, and it would take millions in endowments and interest to that could suffice a reasonable budget. Our fines, fees, and sales don't amount to a lot either, and they also have other costs to cover, which limits the amount of funds that we can allocate to new book purchases from those. They're also inconsistent. We, along with the faculty, apply for grants that have funded some of these purchases, but those are random and they cannot be counted on. Also, our endowment interest varies from one year to another. And lastly, they're restricted. Roughly half of the endowment interest that we get every year comes from restricted endowments. Grants are definitely restricted, and cost transfers are specific to titles that certain departments or colleges want. They pay for them, we purchase and manage them. So, as I mentioned, the last increase was in the fall of 2013. It doubled from $1.66 to $3.32. At that time, we added a number of useful journals and journal packages. Again, which in 2015 received at least 15% of the full text article requests. And our librarians use these resources daily for their reference services, individual consultations, and instructions. And they were purchased because many of these resources are used across multiple disciplines, were acquired because of the number of turnaways that we received, which is what happens when an NDSU patron requests an article that we don't have access to, which means there's a demand there. They're essential resources used to prepare students for their future careers, and they contain data that no other resources have. So, if you're a numbers person, you would say our students are proven how we're spending the student library fee because the student use is up. During fiscal year 16, we had almost 250,000 catalog searches, almost 8,000 reference questions, over 5,200 students reached during instruction, and in spring of 2016 alone, we had almost 170,000 visitors. The students are using the library. So what happens if we are awarded less than our primary request? A partial increase would still allow us to approach the previous book budget of approximately $100,000 per year rather than the $46,500 we had for this year. This would get us back on track to the last decade's spending, which means we would have purchased roughly 24,000 books this year rather than the 7,000 we have in the past 6.5 years. It would also create a permanent and dependable budget. However, if we receive no fee increase, we may be at status quo. But the libraries will do our due diligence to provide as much to a book budget as we can. Most likely, we will continue to use the funds that we are currently using. Our improvements, initiatives, and programs. The libraries will continue to assess their services and student feedback in order to meet the research resources and services essential for student success. There will be more intense interaction with colleges and departments. One of the first things incoming Dean Joan Wachnick wants is meetings with each college and their departments. He and the subject librarians will meet with their respective units to build stronger relationships and to learn the needs of each college. This will help to continue assessing the collection to ensure they meet department curriculum needs. We will continue to analyze database package renewals to ensure any changes in the packages don't create overlap elsewhere. Our resource acquisition, management, and discovery department has created many new tools over the last 2 years that has eased the process of database journal assessment, which has resulted in a number of cuts and cost savings. And we continue to look for subscriptions that we can create multi-year agreements for in order to lock in lower than average inflation rates that will help us forecast better and limit the possibility of cancellations. In addition, we continue to find ways to upgrade our spaces and resources. I've recently been working with a donor by the name of Mary Lou Schott. She is the founder of our Weber Reading Room, and we're working on refurnishing the room. After months of conversation with her, Mary Lou is replacing the furniture, and it is on order and expected to be in March. In the meantime, The libraries are recarpeting the room, so after spring break, the room is going to be entirely brand new. Also, we just implemented a new study room booking module. As for future student services, our focus is on student success. Collection assessment to meet your needs, increased instruction or research assistance, and we're brainstorming on ways for students to get involved in the library and to create an interactive environment. That concludes my presentation. I would like to close with a couple quotes from students and a staff member, and specifically point out the top one here. My library is important because the best thing a college can do for the education of its students, professors, and staff members is to provide the means to educate themselves as much as they can imagine. Our library is that means. That's from Sarah Kramer, who is a senior in Management Information Systems. Anybody have any questions?
Any questions for the library? All right, we'll see you none. Thank you.
All right, thank you.